HD again with the commentary, but I'm going to start again without it. You know, the commentary is good, but basically if you hit it again, it repeats itself. So I'm doing it without, because the
Dear
sound
Esther,
is good.
I have lost track of how long I have been here, and how many visits I have made overall. Certainly the landmarks are now so familiar to me that I have to remind myself to actually see the forms and shapes in front of me. I could stumble blind across these rocks, the edges of these precipices, without fear of missing my step and plummeting down to sea.
No catching
Besides,
frog
I
in
have
the
always
toilet.
considered that if one is to fall, it is critical to keep one's eyes firmly open.
Some music. More music. Sounds like Jackson Pollock. Got to go, turn round. Certificate of approval. Let me check toilet again. Look. No, cat does not get a toilet, but it looks a bit brown. No, cat does not get a toilet. Oh, that's funny. No, you can't go. That's not a toilet. That was a path up, so I think the last time I took the path I went along the beach. Windy.
Donnelly reported the legend of the hermit, a holy man who sought solitude in its most pure form. Allegedly, he rode here from the mainland in a boat without a bottom, so all the creatures of the sea could rise at night to converse with him. How disappointed he must have been with their chatter. Perhaps now, when all that haunts the ocean is the rubbish dumped from the tankers, he'd find more peace. They say he threw his arms wide in a valley on the south side, and the cliff opened up to provide him shelter. They say he died of fever 116 years later. The shepherds left gifts for him at the mouth of the cave, but Donnelly records they never claimed to have seen him. I have visited the cave and I have left my gifts, but like them, I appear to be an unworthy subject of his solitude.
On this one, you will slide down because there's nothing else you can do. Because all the buttons do the same thing, they just all zoom in. Even the shoulder button doing the same. There's a way up there.
At night, you can see the lights sometimes from a passing tanker or trawler. From up on the cliffs, they are mundane. But down here, they fugue into ambiguity, For instance, I cannot readily tell if they belong above or below the waves. The distinction now seems banal. Why not everything and all at once? There's nothing better to do here than indulge in contradictions whilst waiting for the fabric of life to unravel.
I have found the ship's manifest, crumpled and waterlogged under a stash of paint cans. It tells me that along with this present cargo, there was a large quantity of antacid yogurt bound for the European market. It must have washed out to sea. God knows there are no longer gulls or goats here to eat it.
We can't go up here. That's it, so I might as well go back. Hiya. Now I guess I've got to get to the lighthouse, but I don't know how to get to it. I'm saying all the so apart from the sticks, all of them do the zoom in. Oh, that's the way up. No, you expect there would have been a jump, but it's not, because every button does the same thing, just zooms in. Because you can't carry on that way to the lighthouse.
The mount is clearly the focal point of this landscape. It almost appears so well placed as to be artificial. I find myself easily slipping into the delusional state of ascribing purpose, deliberate motive to everything here. Was this island formed during the moment of impact? When we were torn loose from our moorings and the seatbelts cut motorway lanes into our chests and shoulders, did it first break surface then? When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this: to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
Oh.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed significance that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradictions? Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet.
Basically, if you go in the
Responsibility had made him
water,
old.
you'd die.
Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life. I would leave you presents outside your retreat, in this interim space between cliff and beach. I would leave you loaves and fishes, but the fish stocks have been depleted and I've run out of bread. I would row you back to your homeland in a bottomless boat, but I fear we would both be driven mad by the chatter of the sea creatures.
That's the way I came in. I'm going to have to go back on myself because you can't go up too far in the water, otherwise you drown. I think there I came down there. I think where I really came down there. I think.
I dreamt I stood in the center of the sun, and the solar radiation cooked my heart from the inside.
Oh.
My teeth will curl and my fingernails fall off into my pockets like loose change. If I could stomach, I'd eat, but all I seem capable of is salt water. Were the livestock still here, I could turn feral and gorge. I'm as emaciated as a body on a slab, opened up for a premature source of death. I've rowed to this island in a heart without a bottom, all the bacteria of my gut rising up to sing to me.
Oh, I got to the stones. Oh, a couple of books. Chemistry book. I'm guessing that's a Bible. So he didn't take the Bible. So I tell if this path carries on up here or not. Guess it does. Oh, loading. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah, another trophy. Donnelly.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location.
His
You'd
Ordnance
think
Survey
there would
map.
be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can
So now
always see
where
it in
I've
my
got to
rearview
go up
mirror,
or
I have as
down?
yet been unable to pull ashore.
I'll go down. I know if I've got to go back on myself, I can. Just wonder if I can get to the boat. Yeah, it looks like I can get to the boat. Which has all its yoghurts. Won't be going off by now. It's probiotic yogurt.
There must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
I'll say that's as far as I can go. Yeah, I can't go up. So there must be a hole in the bottom of the boat. Oh. That's weird, you can hear the ship obviously moving. So I'm gonna go up the path now. I'll go up there because I started from there, went down to the ship.
It's only at night that this place makes any sluggish effort at life.
Ah.
You can see the buoy and the aerial. I've been taking to sleeping through the day in an attempt to resurrect myself. I can feel the last days drawing upon me. There's little point now in continuation. There must be something new to find here. Some nook or some cranny that offers a perspective worth
Some
clinging
nook
to.
or some granny. Oh, sorry,
I've
cranny.
burnt my bridges. I've sunk my boats and watched them go to water.
There's no way any further up there. No looks or no grannies or crannies. Oh yeah, sorry, I was being silly then. There's a path up the top, so I must have to go there. Goodbye. Sorry, did my no nooks and no grannies offend you? I wasn't a way up there. I think I'm stuck down here. So I must have missed something. So I went down to the to where the ships were. Perhaps if I stay up there and don't go down to the ships, there might be a way round.
I had kidney stones and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
Oh, where this is going. That's definitely a different place. I'm going to say...
When I first looked into the shaft, I swear I felt the stones in my stomach shift in recognition.
Oh, I can go around it. Right, that's going to be it. Looks like there's a building there. That's a couple of buildings.
I've begun to climb, away from the sea and towards the center. It is a straight line to the summit, where the evening begins to coil around the aerial and squeeze the signals into early silence. The bothy squats against the mount to avoid the gaze of the aerial.
Oh,
I
someone had a
too will
wild
creep
party.
under the island like an animal and approach it from the northern shore.
Let's see what time is. That's 8:10 for me.
The bothy was constructed originally in the early 1700s. By then, shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians.
Ah,
He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it.
ah.
There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
I'll go have a look in the house.
My heart is landfill. These false dawns waking into the still never light. I sweat for you in the small hours and wrap my blankets into a mass. I've always heard the waves break on these lost shores, always the gulls forgotten. I can lift this bottle to my ear, and all there ever is for me is this Hebridean music.
Right, so that way I went to the house. I'll see where this boy goes. Bit windy. Man of the rocks.
In a footnote, the editor comments that at this point, Donnelly was going insane as syphilis tore through his system like a drunk driver. He's not to be trusted. Many of his claims are unsubstantiated, and although he does paint a colourful picture, much of what he says may have been derived directly from his fever.
Yeah.
But I've been here, and I know, as Donnelly did, that this place is always half imagined. Even the rocks and caves will shimmer and blur with the right eyes.
Ah. Just got my third trophy, Man of the Rocks.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. All around him, small flowers were reaching for the weak sun. The goats had adjusted happily to life without a shepherd and were grazing freely about the valley. Donnelly reports they hurled the body in fear and disgust down the shaft, but I cannot corroborate this story.
But I can go into this. I think that's a cave. Oh, it's 2 ways. It might be a cave there.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, wintered tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end.
You're done?
The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
Oh, I think I'm into another section now.
Donnelly did not pass through the caves. From here on in, his guidance, unreliable as it is gone from me. I understand now that it is between the two of us, and whatever correspondence can be drawn from the wet rocks.
Right, I'm going to end it there because I've got a few trophies that I want to look at.